Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Robb Evans, and I'm your transformation coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your health, fitness, mindset, and body from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have this legend in front of me right now, Duncan Armstrong, multiple gold medalist, Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, and I actually remember watching you live win the 200-meter gold. Duncan, it's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rob. I'm really looking forward to our chat too, mate. And all that time ago, what was it, 35 years ago, mate? I had a very good day too. I'm glad you had a good day, but I had a better one.
So I wanted to ask, first off, when you are having like a really crap day, do you just like secretly pull out the video and say, yes, look at me, look at what I've done?
No, mate, I just stay in the shits.
So
No,
for full disclosure, I wanted to relive the moment, and I watched it earlier today on YouTube. And so maybe this is a good place to start, and then I'd like to sort of go backwards from there for a bit to check in with your mental toughness and resilience and what it takes to become not just an Olympian, but an Olympic gold medalist. So I was watching it, and I think they were American commentators. I just Googled you on YouTube, and like they're going through each of the people, and you barely rate a mention. It's like they're talking what's his name, Matt Biondi and Gross, was it?
Great. That's right.
And I can't pronounce the other guy's name. And then they're saying, and there's Duncan Armstrong, and like they're really talking these other guys up, and they hardly mention you at all. And even in the last 50 meters, and then you start. So maybe, do you want to talk us through? So I think you're ranked like 46th in the world going into that. So maybe just tell us, give us your perspective of it all. It's fascinating.
Well, Rob, it doesn't matter what the commentators are saying about you before the race, mate. It's got to be after the race.
Yeah.
If they're talking about you after the race, you've got everything right. And a little bit, I guess that captures the whole experience for me, is that I was ranked 48th in the world. I did barely cop a mention over the last 2 years coming into that race because I just done a huge block of training for 2 years straight, knowing full well that if I did get in a race with Biondi and Gross and Vuja and Fana and Dolby and all these sort of like big names of the 200 meters freestyle, that I was going to have to do things very, very differently to be able to compete. So I trained really hard and I got buried in the work. So therefore, there was no good performance. There was no scrapbook moment. There was no nothing. It was just hard work, all for this one moment, all for this race that took 1 minute and 47 seconds. And so that was my one chance to win that gold. So I took it. And there was huge risk in that because if I wasn't able to complete and execute on the day, then I'd be left with my training memories and not my competition memories. And so I was very proud to be in number 6, lane 6, fourth fastest qualifier. I knew I'd be still faster in the final than I was in the heats, and I'd already dropped 2 seconds in the heats. And so I was on this roll, this momentum roll, and I was definitely in what they call the flow. And so I was in this flow state. It lasted the full week of the Olympic Games. I won a gold and a silver. That was my first race on the first day of competition for the Australian men's team. So it was a perfect start for the Australian men's team in the pool. And I was able to win Australia's 100th medal in swimming competition on that day. And I was just able to execute perfectly what I'd been training for 2 years to do. And, you know, I drafted off the lane rope. I drafted off the big 6'7" American, Matt Biondi, who I knew would be in front. So that was part of our plan, our strategy. I was able to use my courage in the first half of the race and stick with him. And then as he started to die, because I was a 400-meter swimmer too, my value in the race started to emerge. And so I was close enough to get him. And with about 35 meters to swim, it was all just go for home. And he did exactly what we thought he would do. He'd get tied up in the last 25 meters, and I was only getting faster. So my stroke count in the last 50 was the same as my stroke count in the first 50. I swam it very evenly, and I didn't slow down because of my stamina over the last 2 years of training. And so when I touched the wall, this is my favorite memory, Rob. When I touched the wall, I touched it with my right hand. I had my head down the entire way from about 12 meters out, 10 strokes to the wall. I touched the wall. I know I've touched the wall, and I touched it quick, fast, like a striking snake. And I quickly have a look to the left where all the 3 world record holders were, and the water is still smooth. So
You
I
can
know
see
they
the
have
look on your
arrived.
face when you do it.
And you
You're
turn
looking
around
up
and
and you're
then
like,
everything goes into slow-mo.
yeah, then
Yeah,
you
because
turn
then
around and look at the scoreboard.
that's right. And like it has this number 1 just flashing beside your name, whoever's won. And so it was this really significant moment of just seeing this number going pink, 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 pink next to my name, D. Armstrong. And there was almost too surreal because in your subconscious, as you do your mental preparation, your emotional preparation, you've got it so cemented in your subconscious. And then all of a sudden the reality meets it. And it's just a huge relief and then a huge crossover and everything goes into slow motion like a car crash and you can't really register. It's all over you. It's all around you, but it's not in you yet. And it's one of those most significant memories of my life.
Do you get goosebumps when you tell it? Because I'm getting goosebumps as you're telling it. And I didn't do it, but just hearing you talk about it.
Every now and then, like I did an Olympians function the other night with Laurie Lawrence, my coach, and we sort of did this 2-act on stage, and that gave me goosebumps. You know, being in proximity of my old coach, listening to his memories, you know, flood out of him, basically infects you, and then all of a sudden you get carried away into this memory state, which is just so potent and powerful. And because we're having this lived experience together from different angles, it's almost intoxicating. It almost puts you straight back on deck.
Yeah, you can imagine it like it was just yesterday. I want to jump back to where it all began for you, but maybe firstly, because you mentioned it there about your like the work rate and going in, so therefore, you know, heading in, you didn't have great times, and so you were, you were ranked where you were. So how did you come up with that strategy? I read that you were doing like 20 kilometers a day. What's that, like 200 laps of the pool or something?
Yeah, 400 laps a day, in 2 sessions with running, a lot of eating, a lot of mental. You know, sort of like it's almost a spiritual experience. You do all this mental preparation too. You know, you do parts of it is meditation, part of it is around sort of like trying to eat as well as you can. All of it is around performance. Like everything you do in your day is basically set up to sort of move towards that moment rather than away. So all your social activity, all your travel, everything is just so programmed. Yeah, absolutely programmed to make sure that you're not going to miss an opportunity. You're not going to get injured. You're not going to get sick. You're not at the wrong time. You're not going to hurt yourself being an idiot. Meanwhile, you're 20 years of age and you think you're bulletproof. So it's this very, very weird balance of youth and experience. So someone like a Laurie Lawrence and someone like your squad becomes super important to keep you in those lines of improvement when things go wrong, when things are challenging, when you're just not getting the drops in training, you're not getting the drops in competition, you're on this strategy that not many people understand because as an individual sport, you might travel as a team, but, you know, it's only me on the block.
Yeah.
So you've got to do things that absolutely, because we're all bespoke, aren't we, Rob? Like you're different from me, I'm different from you. So my training, if I'm going to race you, it's got to be different from yours.
Yes.
Because, you know, winning is not normal. And in swimming, the group doesn't win, it's only you. So you've got all this at the back of your mind that you've got to add on these bespoke, and you know, bespoke's a new word, but add on these individual parts to absolutely make sure that you're individually at your best. It's tricky. It's complicated.
So so we're talking 1988 here, the Seoul Olympics. So that workload, for instance, was that something that you were aware of? Oh yeah, all these guys are doing this, so I've got to do it too, or they're doing like 10K, so I've got to do 20.
It's a little bit of both. You know, you train almost like you're in fear that they're going to outwork you and they're doing something special, or they've got a secret weapon, or they've got a new technique, and so, you know, you're constantly watching. And this is before the internet, before mobile phones, before data was even a thing. So you had to go to the pool and watch your opposition. You had to go to the training pool and see. It's almost like you had to stalk them. Yeah, you had to almost stalk them. And your coaches became very good at watching stroke rates and turn rates and dive rates and everything. And so, you know, you're constantly trying to read the magazines, read the newspapers, listen to athlete stories to see if there's anything new on the horizon. Meanwhile, doing the volume. And the volume is where for me, the confidence came from. I had to out-train myself and everybody else. And then I could stand on the blocks with my head held high, look left and right and go, right, come on, boys, you're going to have to be good to beat me today because I've done the work. Yes. And so these significant volumes meant a great deal to me. Whereas you'd find another swimmer come along and they've got more talent than me. They've got more talent than you. So they can do less training and still be super competitive. It was hard to beat them. So
Yeah.
everybody had to find their way. But for me, the big volume work was the way I had to do it.
Yeah, nice. And so if we go right back to the beginning, so obviously as a kid, like here in Australia, it's a little bit, well, certainly in your part of the world, I'm in Melbourne. I left Sydney on last night. It was 30 degrees. It's 11 when I arrived, and it's about that right now as well. But you're up in Queensland, aren't you? So it's nice and warm all the time. So obviously, as a kid, you like being in the pool and that kind of stuff. But what was it that gave you that spark to say, do you know what, I want to like just join the local club? And then was that point where you said Olympics?
Yeah, like I can't remember a time, Rob, that I wasn't at the. Well, I grew up in Rockhampton in central Queensland. So you talk about the difference between Victoria and Queensland. Central Queensland is very different, brother.
Yeah,
it is hot, like stinking hot all the time.
you need a pool.
I know pools are very important, and Rockhampton had 2 Olympic-sized outdoor pools. We had a rich history of great swimmers coming out of Rockhampton, and I can't remember a time that I wasn't at the Rocky Amateur Swim Club on a Wednesday night. I've got 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters, so we were always there. And that's some of my first and rich memories of swimming on a Wednesday night. Dad was the secretary, Mum was the timekeeper, all that kind of thing, and we were like that for years. Now, I still believe that sport picks you. So I was playing rugby league and cricket and swimming and doing all these other sports, but along came a win at a kind of like an interesting time. And so I had this victory at a certain time.
Yes.
And I felt like I wanted more of it. And then I went and had a swimming camp and I got a tracksuit. And for me, that was shut the gate.
Yeah.
So these tiny little hinges or tiny little victories or significant moments, I think, in all the sports that you play as a kid, especially a teenager, there'll be one that comes along that gives you the victory at the right time for you to be curious enough to go further. And at that point, it's sort of a momentum thing. So you go to your next one and you go to your next one, you go to the next one, and any success along the line, then it unbelievably starts making sense. So you start applying it. And then you start engaging coaches or engaging something else. And the next thing you know, you're a swimmer. And so that's what happened to me. And I've met so many swimmers of so many ages who will tell you exactly the same story. That, hey, I thought I was going to be a rugby league player. But then I went to a swim meet and won it. Yeah. And then someone said, you could be really good. And he was right.
Yeah, nice. So you went to Edinburgh for the Commonwealth Games in '86. So you were 18 then. And it was, we're the same age, so I kind of know the numbers. And so going into that, were you expecting to win because you had a sense of, do you know what, I'm the best at this, or was that a surprise?
No, it was my first international team, or first real team, in terms of getting my swimmers number 336 for that particular meet. And it was a big team. All my heroes were on that team, and I was a rookie. But there was no real 400-meter swimmer in the field. The Olympic bronze medalist Justin Lamberg from Australia got injured, so it left it wide open to anybody who had the courage to stand up and put together a good race and execute under the pressure. And again, it was on day one of competition, and I just put together a great race for myself. And I was able to run down an Englishman who got a long way in front and found a big hole to swim down right at the death. So I cleaned him up with about 25 meters to swim, and I won a Commonwealth Games gold medal in it. It was fantastic. It was not a surprise because, you shouldn't be surprised with winning anything as a swimmer. But it felt amazing that I was able to win a gold medal for Australia, win something so significant. Because the Commonwealth Games in those days, it was hard work against Canada and England. They were really, really good swimming nations back in the day. And so to beat those guys, it really gave you gravitas. It really gave you status in our sport. And it was the first time at 18 that I'd sort of entered the ranks of the men. And I was able to hold my own. So it was great recognition that I was 18 and a man now.
And then that naturally flowed on like 2 years later to just, you were a contender to go to the Olympics?
Yeah. Like I won that Commonwealth Games gold medal, finished my swimming with another gold medal in the 4x200 relay. And I was going to go out on the town that night. And my coach, Laurie Lawrence, looked at me and said,
where are you going?
What do you reckon about your time, mate? I said, yeah, really good. He goes, do you think you can win in 18 months' time in Seoul? And I said, oh, no, no, I need another 4 seconds of it. He goes, fantastic. We start in the morning at 5. I'll see you down here, right? And
Love it.
true to my word, I went across the road to the pub, had a great night, and walked across the road straight over to training at 5 o'clock the next morning. And we did 160 laps first session
Wow.
towards the Olympics. And that kind of mentality set me up to have a go at everything. That type of mentality set me up to sort of say, yes, I've done a really great thing, but the training still has to get done if we're going to win the lot. And that's what we did.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Love hearing how you explain it all. So if while we're on this point, could we maybe just work through chronologically as to what the next step was in terms of, like 92, 96, 2000, there was a bit of media attention and stuff around there. So what was the process for you after Seoul?
Yeah, after Seoul, I went to the United States on a scholarship over to University of Florida for about 12 months and then came back to Australia. Unfortunately, I started to get sick and injured for the next 4 years. I just couldn't recapture the form that I had or the momentum coming into Seoul. I just couldn't put together a training package that, like I said before, worked for me. I was a little bit older and I was unused to changing. So I was trying to force sort of like an 18-year-old energy level into a 24-year-old training routine. And so I kept on breaking down and I got a couple of chronic injuries and then I got glandular fever at the wrong time, missed the Commonwealth Games in 1990. But I did, through all of that, I did make my second Olympic team in 1992. So for me, that's the best achievement I had after 1988. Wearing the green and gold again at another Olympic Games for a relay team was the best I could do in the next 4 years. And then I retired the year after that. So in 1993, I retired at the ripe old age of 25 and headed into the workforce. So I went into media, first in radio and then for television. And then I started attending Olympic Games after that in media. So swam at 2, and then I attended the next sort of like 6 for media, and thoroughly enjoyed that media career for all it was worth.
So I read something that so you came out of retirement, you were thinking about the 2000 Olympics, and then I can vaguely remember, the story coming across the TV, but what happened there? Obviously, like the momentum of being in Sydney, being in our country, and it's like, yeah, let's go, and what the body just didn't do what you wanted it to do.
No, I did everything I wanted to do, Rob. So when I was in television commentary, Ian Thorpe hadn't arrived yet. We're heading towards the Sydney Olympic Games. And I was becoming bitter in retirement because I had such a fast time from 1988. No Australian had beaten yet. And you had great swimmers like Michael Klim and Grant Hackett and all these sort of guys having a crack at the 200 meters freestyle, winning on the world stage. I was becoming bitter and twisted when I was commentating their races. And I could just feel this emotional change, and until finally one day I said, "Oh, I'm turning into a bit of a stinker when it comes to the swim team. So I either put up or shut up." And so I decided to find a coach, get back in the water, and start exploring why I was so angry, and if I had anything left, or if I had anything to contribute. So I was about 28 or 29, and that's really, really quite old for a swimmer. You just don't sort of have that much time off and come back. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was doing it differently. I was opening my mind to a lot of different things like meditation and Pilates and different kind of weights training and different kind of swimming. And my times were coming down. And then I swam at a international meet at the Sydney pool. And I hear I'm in lane 1, Olympic champion. Next to me is Kieran Perkins, Olympic champion. And then there was a 15-year-old between us, right? Because Kieran was just making his start to come back to the 2000s games as well. And so we got these 2 big names in swimming. And this poor 15-year-old, I remember looking at him, and he's looking at both of us going, am I in the right race? Anyway, so I swam in the heats and then the semi-finals of this World Cup event, and swam pretty good, 151.5. And then the voice just went. Like I touched the wall, I looked at my time, and then I could just feel this calm and this burden just sort of disappear. And so I got out of the pool and I went over to my coach at the time, and he's looked at me and he's like, "Oh, you're finished." And I go, "Yeah, I think I am." And my life literally started from that point on. I'd finally laid down swimming where I could lay it down and not think about it again as if I had unfinished business. So
Yeah.
that was actually the moment I really retired. After all the injuries and the sickness and the disappointments of my first retirement, I came back and did everything I needed to do to absolutely lay down my sport and move on to the next chapter of my life. So that comeback was really all about me and all about getting it where I could live with it. And I was able to do that. So I'm very grateful I had the courage to
Yeah,
cop a
absolutely.
bit of the comeback like rhetoric that goes on in the press, and people ask, oh well, what happened? Oh, you came back, and we hate a comeback story. We hate it because we want to keep the image of our champion sort of like crystallized in
Yeah.
in the amber, like a prehistoric dinosaur, like an artifact. And the
Mm.
moment we come back and risk that, Australians sort of like, what are you doing? Don't do it.
Yeah.
But I really kind of had to. Otherwise, I would have,
Yeah, for
I don't know
you.
where I would, yeah, I don't know where I would have ended up, Rob. I would have ended up probably vastly unhappy and a nasty old man.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's obviously
Mm.
deeply personal to you. So yeah, unfinished business. Well done. And yeah, to step out and have that courage because you can't hide in the pool.
No, no.
So I've got a US coach, and he comes out here. He's out here at the moment, and I spent the weekend with him. And he says the tall poppy syndrome that you have here in your country, he says, is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
We love to just chop people down. It's like, hey, 1 minute you're a superstar, and next
Mm.
minute you want to cut me down
Mm.
to size. And so that's probably a nice segue into how difficult is it for athletes to get to that point where they've got to say, I've got to retire. I
Mm.
should retire. Because I imagine that on the other side of that is like it all stops in some ways.
It's a pretty good observation, mate. It feels like it all stops. You're absolutely right. Like you feel like Michael Jordan in his second comeback wrote a book and said, there's nothing feels like it when you're it. And the it could be many things. It can be a Michael Jordan type it, where he's a sport changer and everybody looks to him and he's the perfect example of what this sport is all about. Or it might be, a winning jockey, or it might be something. But that successful atmosphere where people are looking at you and giving you attention for your ability is quite intoxicating. It's very hard to, like you say, lay it down. And so, I went through my own version of that. I went through my own version of sort of being invited everywhere, called up all the time to crickets, to redefining who and what I am. And, for me, this is the example I give a lot of the time, mate, is that when you're a swimmer or an athlete of any description, it's a one-word answer. People look at you and go, what do you do, mate? And you go, I'm a swimmer. Landed. That's it.
Yeah.
It's all wrapped up in that one word, swimmer,
Yeah.
right? You give the togs up, you hang your towel up, get dry, chlorine dries. You go to work for, I don't know, media outlet and stuff like that. People go, what do you do, mate? You spend 15 minutes trying to convince them that to do something interesting.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely crazy. Your identity is so redefined.
Yes.
And if you're not ready for it, it's absolutely jarring. It's absolutely difficult. And that's why we see so many athletes, struggle into the void of the re-identifying who they are, who and what they are. And, from the Olympic Games, every Olympic Games, you get a void because you've had a 4-year clock, 4-year plan, 4-year strategy, and then
Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
And so if you're not prepared for the void afterwards, you can wander around in the dark there for a really, really long time. And I was determined not to do that, but boy, oh boy, I felt it. It was really difficult. Even when I was working at these fantastic television jobs, which gave me a lot of identity and a lot of profile heat and stuff like that, I still missed it horribly, having that regimented purpose, plan,
Yes.
hardcore,
That's the thing.
purpose that
Yeah.
everybody bought into. Like I'd walk down the street and everybody's bought into it because I was Duncan Armstrong and I
Yes.
am Duncan Armstrong. But man, that attention certainly tunes up those two words, Duncan Armstrong.
Yes. 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 I think there's something like I say I wish I had your genetics. This is the power of Zoom, right? I'm actually on my screen, I'm taller than you, but you're like what are you, 188 centimeters, something like
Yeah,
that? I'm 165. And I remember having a conversation with what's his first name? Tonkin, the awesome foursome.
James Tonkin.
James. And I said to him, James, what is the likelihood of me getting in one of your boats? And he said, maybe as the coxswain.
Coxswain, yeah. which is still a vital part of the team. So well
That's
done,
right.
Rob. You're on the team, mate. You're on the team.
That's right.
And you're a good talker, so you're already talented.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, now I've lost what my question was going to be, but
it was about identity, mate.
So the work that needs to go in, and it being quite addictive. Oh, that's right. That I was talking about. Yeah, so I'm not a competitive athlete, but I work like an athlete in terms of my mindset, the work that I do in the gym, the work I do on my mindset, what I put into my food. I'm sure I'm better than some athletes, certainly some of the ones that I've had exposure to, like you were talking about, the exuberance of youth and fast food and Red Bull and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you can do better than that. But I think there's something addictive about the work and that structure as you laid out there. Like my mental health would not be, forget the rest of the health, my mental health would not be as good if I didn't put in all the work. So maybe could you give us a bit of an insight into, because obviously the way your training is designed is like if you make the final, that's when you're at your peak, right? So you're working up to that. So we've mentioned about the 20 kilometers swimming a day and that kind of stuff. How would you like carve up your, well, let's go back to where you said, Laurie, the next day you went across the road and did 160 laps. How do you start carving it out a couple of years beforehand? What your workload's going to look like and what are you going to do different?
Yeah, well, Laurie had one of the most brutal and antagonistic squads in the country, and he won the most gold medals with it. So everybody's invested. Everybody is in 100%. So you've got this hardcore 20 or so out of the 60. The 60 are all trying to become, the 20 hardcore wearing the green and gold. So there's this culture in the behavior group, in this group, that's uncompromising. And so you're going to do 110 Ks a week. You're going to do running this week. You're going to do eating this week. You're going to eat basically every 90 minutes. You're going to get your 7,000 to 10,000 calories per day, depending on the volume of work you're doing. And then, then you're going to watch your films, and then you're going to do your logbooks, and then you're going to do your stretching, and so all of that activity and intensity is not like, can we get out of it? It's like, can we do more? And so there's real determination to do the volume work and to do all that, because my day was mapped out. That my alarm went off at 4:08 in the morning because that was the last minute I could sleep in before going downstairs, eating my 14 Weet Bix, going upstairs to wake my dad up, to get him in the car, to get him out to training. So we're in front of the door at 4:45 in the morning. If we're not there, then the sit-ups start, and then we get in through the door at 5 o'clock when the council pool open. And then we got 5 minutes to be on the blocks and in the water for the first warm-up. The warm-up's going to be 2Ks. The main set's going to be 4 to 6Ks, and then we're going to do a backup set of 2Ks. We're going to get out of the water. We're going to have 3 minutes to get in the gym. And then in the gym, we're going to do bench sit-ups, bars for the next 45 minutes. And then we're going to have something to eat and go home.
Yeah, wow.
And that's one morning. And so you're doing that 6 mornings a week.
That's what, like 3 hours, something like that?
Yeah, so you're looking to swim at about a base of about 115 per 100, and that's going to get you through 10 Ks of work in 2.5 hours in the water, and then you've got to get into the gym and do your thing and stuff, and that becomes normalized. So that sounds super intense, but
it's phenomenal.
That's just what we're going to be doing today, and then we're going to come back in the afternoon at 3:30 after school, and you're going to get in and do pretty much the same thing again. It's slightly different.
Yeah, wow. It's unimaginable, really. Well, I'm sure people you just glossed over it so quickly, but people have stopped at 14 Weet Bix and they're just imagining. How do you fit 14 in a bowl?
Okay,
you're burning so many.
Yeah,
calories.
I ate 50 Weet Bix every single day, 7 days a week for about 8 years, plus a cheesecake and plus a Christmas cake every 2 days, just to keep the calories in. And then we had meals around that.
Like if you're just eating veggies and clean protein and stuff, you will not get it in.
I know. So like I was saying before, like my sickness cycles are around my nutrition, 100%. And so when I couldn't get the calories in, the training would knock me down so much that I was susceptible. And so, my immune system takes a beat. So, there's all these little, like, I remember when coenzyme Q10 came out. It
Yeah.
was just like this miracle thing that we had to shovel into our mouth, all week. And then, the vitamin C bags came out with the vitamin E, vitamin A, and all that kind of stuff came out, and we're able to get 2 of them a week. So it was just this madness around, how do I get enough calories? How do I get enough sustainability to be able to go another 10 Ks this week and not get sick? And then, you're in a closed environment, indoor pool, anybody gets sick, we're all getting it. So there was this constant sort of like working with whatever was new in technology, in nutrition, in psychology, all of it. And so we were absolutely so intense about it. But yeah, no, 50 Weet-Bix a day, 14 in the morning, 10 when I got home, 14 before I go again, 10 when I, just before I go to bed after dinner. So it's 2 Weet-Bix in a bowl with sugar on top and milk, and you just keep on plowing
Just
through
keep going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like them soggy, not crunchy.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, that's a lot to get your head around. So with the say you're heading into the Olympics now, do you taper off? Like, are there days where you just don't swim at all, or you have to swim every day just because the muscles seize up or something?
No, it's all about feel, Rob. So your feel on the water gives you such confidence. So the moment you take a day out of the water, you've got to go back and find your feel. So our taper would go this intense pyramid all the way up, and we'd try to hold up 110 Ks a week for about 7 weeks. Okay, really, really tough stuff. And then around about 6 weeks out from the meet, you start coming down, you start chopping into that 110 Ks. So you come down to 80, 70, 60, 50, until the last week coming into it, you're getting 2 massages a day, you're doing 1,500 meters in the water, you're only doing alactic work, so really, really high-end phosphorus work. And, you're mentally, you're now so full of blood. Your muscles are so on track. You're thinking so crystal clearly, like you're tapering the last week before every meet, every big meet. It is the most golden time of your swimmer's life, because you've done all this volume of work, and then all of a sudden you've given yourself time to rest, and you are now just like a superhero. And that's when you polish off the skateboard and you do something stupid because you're still 20 and you're still not mature. And so your coach and your parents and your handlers and the team are trying to hold you together as you are literally going out of your mind with energy. And so going to the Olympic Games then heightens. You go, you get your accreditation, you hit this foreign city, you get behind the gate. There's only 10,000 Olympians allowed on the planet to be inside the gate. And so, and then all the sponsors are throwing things at you, and then you see the other competition, and you're getting closer to a 4-year clock. The 4-year clock is going to end in 2 days' time. And the whole time you're just doing these mental exercises to calm down and calm down and calm down, because you want to channel it down your lane, not in the village. You want to channel it down your lane, not down at the markets buying cheap shit. You're trying to, but as a young person, that's all you want to do. All you want to do is run around like a maniac and get into mischief, right?
Yes.
So the whole time you're living this schizophrenic life of like, I've trained for this for 4 years, I'm not going to miss my point, to, oh my God, there's something shiny over there. Let's run over there and see what it is. So, and you get into such a peak that you can't walk up 3 sets of stairs without it getting sore.
Right.
Your peak is all about this specialist 4 laps, not stairs, not running, not walking too far. You are a swimmer to the highest degree, and the 4-year clock is about to stop, and you can't let that pressure crush you. And and then you walk into the pool and there's 3 world record holders in your race.
Yeah.
Good times. Good times.
How hard is the mental side of it? Like,
it sorts everybody up, mate.
Just the workload and everything.
Yeah. Well, this is where you get a champion from. The champion has to think his way through it, whereas a really good athlete misses it.
Yes.
See, there's more champions walking the streets than there are winning gold medals.
Yeah.
But it's the mental game that actually turns you into a champion. Yeah. It's not just the training pool. So, like I keep on saying, the Olympic Games is such an extraordinary peak because they're not doing it next year or the next year or the next year. I'll see you again in 4 years. And mate, you're a different person in 4 years. The world's a different place in 4 years. Like in 1988, there was no internet. By 1992, there was.
Yeah.
That's how quick things change. And and so you get one window of opportunity. Now you get on the track and the sprinters are doing less than 10 seconds for the sprint.
Mm.
Well, they're 50 seconds for one lap of the track. It becomes crazy how
Yes.
this stuff works in terms of the pressure of the 4 year clock. And somehow in your training and in your growth and in your development, you have to get it to a point where it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's the trick of the champion. The champions make it slow down and make sense, and they're able to develop themselves to beat everybody else who shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What do you think is the reason that we see so consistently world records come down all the time? Like, is it what you said before? Is it, well, obviously there's technology, so we've got more data and so forth, but we're still the same humans. So is it down to the performance? Is it down to, the supplements? I'm talking about the legal supplements. Is it, I don't know, is it a better design of pools as well? So the water's different and all that kind of stuff? Or now I'm just
I think it
going,
really comes down. Yeah, no, I think they're all fair questions, and I think they're all fair directions to look in. I think there's been advance in every single thing you've mentioned there. But
yeah,
I just wrap it up in this: human endeavor and sports science means the world. That means the records are going to keep tumbling. Like, it is nutrition and the science of nutrition. It is the science of psychology. It is the science behind the pool and the deck and the blocks and the tilt and the angles and the water temperature and the lane ropes. It is all that. But underpinning all of that is we have an ability to open our minds, and we have pathways now for young people to be anything they want to be. Like I said before, growing up Rockhampton, there was three sports. There was swimming all year round, and there was cricket and footy. That was it.
mm,
Now you go to a sports night at high school and you've got a taekwondo champion, you've got a dance champion, you've got a chess
yeah,
champion, you've got MMA champion, you've got, you go through it and they're all having a go. Then you've got all the motorsports, and we have got that much availability for young people to get started earlier, to understand it quicker. And we've got all the psychology on YouTube or wherever you want to look
mm,
to get them going in the right direction earlier. So
yeah,
when you're looking at an 18-year-old now, you're looking at someone who's fully developed over 5 years. Now, they've got a long way to go if they can sustain the intensity. Or you've got a 24-year-old who's never had a go at it. And then 2 years later, he's representing Australia in it because he saw a YouTube video and got curious.
yeah,
So we live in this incredible information time, whereas in the old days, I'd have to go through magazines just to find
yeah,
some secret that
yeah,
that Michael Phelps is doing, some secret. Now Phelpsy has got technique films that he's put out himself on how he got so good at the dive or so good at the turn, and there's all the drills. And so
yeah,
some young kid who wants to swim butterfly like Michael Phelps, who lives in an outback town, but they've got a swimming pool, he's now going to get world champion insight, world champion drills and techniques.
mm,
And now he's only got to have the curiosity and application, right?
yeah,
That's why we keep on improving, because we keep challenging humans with great insights to
yes,
be better.
yeah, yeah, beautifully said. Do you think AI is going to play a big role here?
Yeah, I think AI is going to play a big role in everything we do. I
Mm,
think AI is going to be the augmented factor in terms of us going forward as a species, for
mm,
sure, for
mm.
sure.
I use it
I
every
don't know
day.
what it looks like, and
Yeah,
does it intimidate me a little bit because I'm old?
yeah,
But anybody like AI is not going to replace humans, but humans who use AI definitely will.
yes,
And our young people who keep on breaking these world records and get better, they're right up for it. And all you need is enthusiasm and curiosity,
mm,
and they're going to be our next leaders.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I want to change the pace a little bit. Your greatest failure and whether it's in swimming, business, life, whatever, and what you've learned from it.
I think my greatest failure is not monitoring my health. I had a severe heart attack 3 years ago, coming up to the anniversary 3 years ago. Almost got me. Same one as Shane Warne. Same age as Shane Warne, 52. And the 50 Weet-Bix a day. And I didn't monitor my health. And so I almost lost a lot on a Tuesday afternoon 3 years ago. And I was able to be saved at a hospital, got a triple bypass, and I've got on with my life since. But that's probably potentially the biggest fail I've ever had. Now, I've had little ones, but that
Yeah.
was the one that almost cost me everything. I've got 5 kids. I've got a grandchild now that she arrived 12 months ago. So I would have missed all of that.
Yes.
Would have missed a lot. And it was because I was completely in my own ego about how healthy and fit I was. And I wasn't getting any testing for plaque or calcium. My blood pressure was fine. My cholesterol was a little bit elevated, not badly. But I had family history. And I didn't check into the family history side of my health diligently enough as a person, as a man, as a leader of my family, as a father. And it almost got me. So that was my biggest failure.
Yeah. Wow. And so you're obviously a lot healthier now. Are you more focused on what you're eating and what you're doing and stuff?
Yeah. So I've just basically changed to a keto diet, given up beer, which was the real shame. I love my beer. I loved my beer. Just changed to a keto diet. It suits me. It gives me the energy I want. And I go for regular checkups, even though I'm a triple bypass the recipient. I still go for CT calcium scans every 6 months. They sort of look at me and going, we don't usually do this for
Yeah.
people
Why are
with
you
bypass.
here?
And I'm like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the data. So,
Yes, you're obsessed by it. I love data too.
mm,
You're a left brainer like me. You just love the data,
mm,
analyzing the data and what you can learn from it and improve.
I know it makes me very unpleasant to my loved ones, but anyway, I love the data. They're sick of it. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty confident that I can get to old bones now if I continue on monitoring my health, eating the right things, and understanding it.
Yeah, yeah, nice. I mean, it's a lifelong journey. You learn
Mm.
you learn a lot about your body, and you've certainly thrashed yours over the years. Do you is it possible for you to still get into the pool, or you just can't do it now because of
Nah.
what you've done?
Yeah, there's nothing curious. There's nothing, I'm not curious about anything in the pool. It doesn't change. It's a beautiful sport. The
Yeah.
same pool that Dawn Fraser won in the 1960s that I won in the 80s, they're still swimming in it today. It's had some modifications, but it's a 50-meter hole in the ground with water in it.
Yeah.
So it's beautifully, and you need no gear. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's just dick stickers and goggles, and away
Yeah.
you go, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that part of it, but it also means that it doesn't change enough for me to be interested in it anymore. And I
Yeah.
love swimming in the surf. I've got 5 kids. They're all quite good swimmers. We've had a wonderful aquatic life, and that will always continue. But I
Yeah.
don't do any laps.
And so with the mindset that you've obviously had and then sculpted to be the champion that you are, I would assume that it's impossible not to bring that into the rest of your life in terms of how you attack business and relationships and everything. I mean, I'm not just talking like relationships with your family and intimate relationships. I'm talking about like business, your business and your career and so forth. Would that be a fairly safe statement?
I've been a pain in the ass, Rob, most of my life because of those values. Because the things that made me successful in the pool don't always translate both corporately or
Yes.
relationshiply. So, like, I'm an old buzzard now, 55, same age as you. So I've learned a great deal. So I'm probably at my softest when it comes to my drive. I'm probably at my most circumspect when it comes to my willingness to torture people for better performances. I'm
Yeah.
probably at my best.
But you're coaching, aren't you, as well?
No,
Oh, you're not coaching.
no, no. I do some corporate coaching and I do some motivational speaking. I do some
Right.
corporate speaking and things like that. So the coaching word probably is attached to my profiles here and
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I'm very strong about what I try to deliver in my corporate coaching programs. No problem at all. And there's an element of that, like sort of uncompromising drive, accessing the best you, utilizing your gifts, and being competitive to a healthy level, hopefully.
Yes.
So that's where that gets a bit of a feed. But I've done a lot of work on myself to have compassion and empathy for the people around me, to try to be a better team member than I probably was in my younger years when it didn't translate into value for myself.
Yeah.
So I've sort of like, I've arrested a lot of that, which I'm very proud of, in the journey and the development and the people who invested in me to be able to land there. So I'm not hyper competitive anymore, and I can sniff out when it shows up very quickly. So can
Right.
my wife, Rebecca. She can sort of like see it from across the room, and she'll go, "Don't do it, don't do it." Because
Just
the
bring it
worst
down,
thing you
Tiger.
used, yeah, the worst thing you used to be able to tell me is I couldn't do something, and then I was off to the races, and I
Yeah.
turned into a complete pain just to prove that wrong.
One of the things that I really struggle with is people's excuses, because I've worked a long time to condition it out of myself.
Mm.
And when I hear people with excuses, I just want to do this.
Mm.
Just want to leave the
Empathy and
room.
compassion. Empathy and compassion. Two things that you got to learn about people's excuses.
Well, you know, like before we hit record, I was telling you a little bit about my daughter, and like her journey has certainly taught me to be more empathetic to people, to be more understanding, and to say, do you know what? You might be looking at someone, but you don't know what they've got going on in here. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And it just, makes me now reflect on, okay, maybe this person just needs how's your day today?
Yeah.
Put a smile on their face, something like that.
I think a big thing for me, mate, that you might be able to utilize is curiosity. Because like it's just said, like, you don't know what's happening with people, but if you're curious, they might tell you,
Yes.
and stuff like that. And that's when the empathy and the compassion sort of really has a vehicle in your curiosity to actually discover something about people. Because I used to write people off. People start complaining. I'm like, I'm out, just walk away. Now I've lost out what's happening for them. I'm now out of the group because I've taken myself out of the group because I've decided that I don't want to hear something. And yet this person might be a really interesting person that you could have a great relationship with, but I'll never know now because my
Yeah.
curiosity wasn't tapped to find out why they're even talking like that.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely said. Look, obviously we call the Mental Toughness and Body Show here. So as we start to close out, we can keep talking for hours, I'm sure. What would be, because some people are saying, well, this is so inspirational listening to an Olympic champion. What would you say to somebody I think that my observations are that the newer generations, like I've got an 18-year-old daughter, I don't know, we're not becoming as resilient as we once were. And, when you and I grew up as kids, the world was so different. It's like you just got on and you dealt with stuff. How, like as adults in business, or people wanting to move from, most people want change, they are where they are, but they want more. Whether it's more money, more health, wellness, whatever. What would you say are, say, a couple of tips that you would suggest to people to help them improve their mental toughness, their resilience, so that they can really go for what it is that they're leaving in the tank?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And then the younger generation with old guys like us, mate, are always going to cop it. It's called the generation gap for a reason. The qualities and the values that we grew up in and the beliefs that they, underpin, are not shared by the next generation. And we feel like we've done all this hard work and they're just going to squander it away. But
Yes.
that's what everybody's always thought about the next generation. So we're right in line and we're very consistent, which is a good thing. But the offense culture that we perceive in our position, when we talk about kids aren't resilient, kids are snowflakes, the woke culture, we can ride it any way we want. Okay. But my tip is for everybody. And my tips goes like this. If you want to learn to be the best version of yourself, you need a coach. You need someone outside of you to start pulling out your curiosity, started pulling out your offense, started pulling out how you can be the best version of you. So coaching for me is everything. You've got to be in coaching. If you want to be a great leader, you've got to find a leadership coach. If you want to be a great husband, you've got to find other blokes who are great husbands. If you want to be a great professional wife or a professional mum, go and find someone who inspires you, who invests in you through their hard work and experience, and then you can try it on for size, and then you can see if it's going to suit you or not. So coaching is absolutely key for you to becoming the resilient leader, person, or whatever you want to be. And there's heaps of coaches everywhere. Like, my men's journey has been so interesting because as an individual athlete, I wasn't looking for it yet. I've always had strong men like Laurie Lawrence and my dad and my brothers and stuff. I've always had strong men in my life. And then
Yes.
I got into this headspace that, I knew everything. I knew it. And
Mm.
I became lonely. I became depressed. I became really challenged in my mental state because I didn't have enough men investing in me. So I got into the shed movement because I was challenged by, I'd like to come to the shed movement. I'd never heard of it before. I'd become a Christian. But these blokes get together on purpose because they
Yeah.
want to grow good men, right?
Yeah.
And I became so resilient in that movement because of what I learned from other blokes at shed nights. And
Yeah.
so there's all these groups to do it through. So for young people today, if you want to become a savage, go and get yourself a coach. Be around groups who actually want to do well. Get out of groups that basically. And mate, you and I grew up in our towns, in our
Yeah.
places, and there was guys who were slacking off, and they were just the groups you didn't want to be in,
Yes.
right? Yeah, it still exists today. So our jobs as older people is to keep nudging, keep encouraging, keep presenting opportunities to spark their enthusiasm, to spark their curiosity, for young people to have options.
Yes.
We live in a culture where single mums are trying to do the whole lot. So
Yes.
how do we invest in those kids who might not have a dad around the whole time? And is
Yeah.
it through sport? Is it through refereeing? Is it through volunteering? Is it from just joining the local rugby club or the footy club or the swimming club and just being around kids and being that encouraging adult?
Yes.
There's many ways to skin this cat. But if for young people listening, go and get yourself a coach in everything
Yeah.
and then get into a group.
I'm so glad you said that, because like you think about you would not have won a gold medal without coaching. If you said, no, I'm just going to do it by myself, I'll just go swim by myself and do that, you wouldn't have got there. And yet we often put sport in a different aspect to other aspects of our life. And we say, well, hang on, if you want to be like, as you said, the best version of yourself. So the best business person, the best dad, the best wife, the best whatever, the best in your business, then you cannot do it without coaching. And if you find somebody that's done it over and over again, so I'm like connected with a bunch of billionaires and stuff, and it's fantastic because they're way more successful than me financially. So it's great being the poorest person in the room when you're with them, because you just learn, right?
Yeah.
So I two more questions for you, just quick one. So one of the challenges that I find, it's kind of leading on from what we just spoke about. Do you find it challenging to hang out with the right type of energy? Because you are such a high performer. Do you know what I'm talking about? You're such a high performer, and there are so low vibrational people out there that it's like, oh my God, you walk into a room, it's like, oh, you're just sucking the life out of me. Personally, I find the more successful you become, you have, like we mentioned about the tall poppy syndrome, but it's hard to find those people that want the type of success that you want and will really celebrate your success, as opposed to, oh, well, you did that, but that's because you did this and that and whatever. Do you have that problem?
Yeah, look, I think everybody does, but you got to make a deal with yourself. You got to understand where you're going. You got to know your dailies. So as a high performer, you've got to do your dailies to make sure your energy level can sustain and be resilient when you have a full day of detractors. You have a full day of low energy, low fun, banal, boring work in front of you. Like if you've got caught up in that day's work, it's got to be leading somewhere, right? Because that's the way we're set up. So you've got to make sure that your dailies, are you getting enough dopamine? Are you getting off your screen before? Are you reading before you go to bed? Are you setting yourself up with the right sort of sleep patterns? Have you had your testing done to see if your sleep apnea, where does your energy flow all day? And why is this meeting in this day with these low vibration people, as you say? Where does this make sense? And that's on me. Okay, so
Yes.
yeah, I love being connected to high energy, and I love the curiosity, and I love the billionaires meeting that you're going to and stuff like that. I love that. Okay, but where does this fit in my day, my week, my month, so I can actually control my output and my energy? So when I do hit one of those, well, turkey meetings, I don't
Yeah.
start gobbling like the rest of them. I understand while I'm there. I
Yeah.
don't buy into basically it. I'm empathetic. I'm compassionate. I'll lead them along if they want to come along, but I know there's an end to it. And I know there's a reason I'm in the room. So really, resilience is about setting up your dailies to be resilient inherent things that don't suit you. That's resilience. Resilience is learning where I'm at my best and how I produce it on a constant level. Now, you're always going to get caught out because you're surrounded by millions of people and you're aspirational about your impact on your business and spending time. So there are going to be meetings every single week where you're scratching your head going, how did I get myself into this?
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
having the grace to sort of say, oh, I know exactly how, because someone gave me a great story and I thought that was a great idea. And I knew it wasn't going to be, but I
Yes.
went along anyway because I didn't have the discipline in that moment to say no.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's really well articulated. I haven't heard it explained that way before. Really well done. Final question. So you're involved with a couple of charities, which sound absolutely amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about those and how people can get involved?
Sure. One of them is called Teen Challenge Queensland. It's a rehab centre here in southeast Queensland. It's been going for about 60 years, and they do a 9-month program for students who come in with alcohol or substance abuse. They have men's and women, and it's a tough program. Like you got rehab programs that go 6 weeks or 12 weeks, and ours is the sort of the granddaddy of them all. Like if you can stick with the program, you've got a chance to transform your life. I'm not saying the others don't work, but we've found over the last 60 years that the only way to really transform people's lives is to break those habits, break those environments of going back into it, and really give them something to hang on to as a new life. So that's Teen Challenge Queensland. And the other one is the Ladybird Foundation, which is about parents who have lost a child. So this is a support charity with a mentor and a mentees, and we just help parents who have lost a child. And it's the gap between our health system and real support once your child has gone where they've gone. And it's about, coming alongside, walking alongside and mentoring grieving parents in the next phase of their life after losing a child. So Ladybird Foundation's another beauty that I'd like to introduce your people to.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm going to put the links to those underneath the written part of this podcast. So, Duncan, if I could thank you on behalf of the entire country for your contribution to swimming, and I know you certainly brought a lot of joy in my life back in. I remember watching that race and what it did for me, and rewatching it, I kind of relived the whole feelings again. But you've added so much value here today with the audience. We could keep talking for hours and hours. I'm glad you're healthy and well
Thank
now.
you.
You got, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've peaked yet. Maybe you have in your swimming, maybe, but I don't think I've peaked yet. I've got so much that I've still got to do. And I think that's really exciting. People think, oh, you're getting close to retirement. I keep now getting in my Facebook feeds lifetime, what are you call lifestyle communities, because I've hit over 55. It's like, come on, I'm not moving into an over 55s community. But you've added so much value here today. It's been an honor to have you on this show. Thank you so much.
But just tell me if it's a duplex in that nursing home on that ad, and I might pull up a stump next to you. I've had a lot of fun, Rob. It's been really great to speak to you, mate.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Duncan.